Hey guys, Scott here. I've just been going through the Judgment chapters patch notes just so you guys don't have to, because there's a lot of just random lines that don't really matter here. I'm also not going to cover, the new perks, the new killer, the new survivor, all that stuff. I've already done that in separate videos. I'm not just going to keep repeating the same things over and over again. So if you guys need info about that stuff, there are previous videos on my channel for you to look up there. I'll even link them below. But I wanted to go over just really the changes from the PTB section, because that's where the unknown things were. And I also wanted to go over a couple of things that they just make no sense to me. In fact, I'm going to start with what the title of this stream is referring to. Under the bug fix section, there is a line that says, fixed an issue where the executioner's punishment of the damned failed to travel uphill. So my question is, why does Behaviour keep doing this shit? I don't know how many times in the past there has been something that has been established to be functioning correctly. They'll change it because they wanted to buff or nerf it, and then they will say that they fixed a bug involving that thing when it's clearly an intentional balanced design change. I don't know why they do this to themselves over and over again. It makes no sense at all, because there's two options when they make a change like this. Option one is what they choose every time. They pretend that something was bugged and they're so incompetent that they couldn't fix it after 7 years, or it took 7 years for them to finally actually fix it. It makes them look terrible. It makes them look so bad as developers of a game that something's been bugged for 7 years and I don't know how to fix it, so it's going to be in the game for 7 years now. That's option A. Option B is they realize, Pyramid Head's kind of frustrating to play on Swamp, for example, so let's buff him a little bit so he's more consistent on every single map. If you do that, everyone's like, oh, cool, nice. Pyramid Head mains are like, fuck yeah, this is great. Everyone's happy. So why do they choose the option where they just make themselves look like fucking idiots? It makes no sense. Just pick the option where everyone throws you it's literally, do you want puppies and candy or diarrhea? Like, they just choose the diarrhea option every time. I don't understand why. Pick the option that makes you look better as developers. It's such a mundane... I'm not even complaining about it. I'm almost offering sympathy for them. People will like you more if you just choose to buff things that probably should be changed because they're frustrating. Like, that would be a good decision. So that's a random aside. That's what the title of the stream is for. I don't know what the hell's going on there. They just... Self-destructive behavior. One of the other major lines that you should be very concerned about is the very, very last line of the known issue section. It's actually the last line of the patch notes in general. Mettle of Man perk is activating 1 hit sooner than it should. That should absolutely terrify you, because that brings it very close to its original strength when it was the most broken perk in the entire game. This is basically a stronger version of the second version of this perk. So when the perk first came out, Mettle of Man, if you don't know, when you take protection hits after the third hit, you gain endurance. Basically, you become invincible to another hit after you take 3 protection hits. When this perk first came out, it wasn't 3 protection hits, it was just 3 hits. Which is why it was the most broken perk of the game. You would just get hit by a killer and get endurance. You would literally get rewarded for getting hit. It was the dumbest thing on perk design that they have ever made, rivaling like old Decisive Strike or like old Balanced Landing on Haddonfield or something like that. It was so insanely busted. So then the next version of that changed it to 3 protection hits, which was much more fair, but ended up being probably a little too hard to charge up. But the effect was so powerful that they kind of kept it as is. Then they changed it to require only 2 protection hits, but then they changed how the aura reading worked on that. They made the aura reading far more punishing for the survivor, so although they could charge the perk up much faster now, they were visible for a much longer amount of time, and then eventually they just reverted it back to the second version, which is back to 3 protection hits with the same aura reveal. With this, we are now down to 2 protection hits again, but it doesn't have the detriment of the worst aura reveal. So this is the second worst form we've had of Mettle of Man. I say worst for a killer. Second strongest form of Mettle of Man in the perspective of survivors. So this is a known issue, which means it'll likely be fixed in like a week or 2. This is not going to be something you have to worry about for a very, very long time. But this is like borderline, like, don't come to school levels of, oh, fuck. Obviously an exaggeration. It's not making light of that shit. But like, it's very, very, very bad for killer right now. You're going to see a lot of people abusing Mettle of Man. I don't know why they just don't kill switch the perk until they fix it. In fact, they very likely might do that. At the time of me talking about this video, they have not done that yet. So I very, very much am hoping that they do kill switch it. I don't know why they wouldn't. That's basically as broken as any perk that's been kill switched is. So they very much need to kill switch that, because that is absolutely, utterly terrifying. In terms of other changes from the PTB, I've already went over the 0.3 Zellasecond change, the visual indicator that the power is coming. All this stuff is like kind of still in the game, but they said in a bug fix, they're going to start addressing stuff. Even Vigil is not really in the nerf form that we wanted right now. It still removes all other status effects that have rated 30%. Whereas when the bug fix patch hits, then it'll only affect exhaustion. So there's a lot of stuff here that's sort of old and outdated, which is why I don't even want to really cover that section that much, because it's likely going to be fixed in like, a week or something like that. So really the only things I want to go over for the Judgment are a couple of add-on changes. Aura's Telereceptor was a very, very good ore reading add-on. I use that basically every game because it does give you a shit ton of ore reading. You'd run it with Lethal Pursuer. It would make hitting shots through walls a lot easier, things like that. They added a new downside to it now. So now when a heretic sees your aura, for whatever reason, they see it for even longer. So it's having a bit of a trade-off now, because they even mentioned when you combine it with Lethal Pursuer, they basically gave everyone else Lethal Pursuer if you're running that add-on. Kind of because if you did run this add-on, it was a no-brainer to run Lethal Pursuer with it. So I don't really hate that. It's not like super often that a survivor will see the killer's aura to have that aura reading extended. It can happen, and survivors running or reading perks are going to very much enjoy when the killer runs that, because you're going to get a lot of information from them. And as killer, you're going to have to be aware of when that's happening. People might be seeing you through walls. You got to be a bit more aware of why that's going to be happening. But overall, I think that is fine. The add-on is still extremely, extremely strong. So I think that's overall fine. Order of the Inquisition was basically just like nerf buffed side graded. They reduced the downside and reduced the upside, so it's just more consistent. The Superheated Glass, which is the one that makes it so when you're zealous, you can like break pallets on the floor or break breakable walls. They decreased the penalty to the zealous duration by quite a bit. It's now only a 20% duration decrease. It used to be 50%, which is pretty good. Now, whenever you break an object in that manner, survivors that are near that object gain Heresy and Scream. So that's actually a pretty sizable buff to Superheated Glass. I still don't know how much I'm going to be even wanting to break pallets with this killer, because he really doesn't have to break like almost any pallets. The killer can hit you through basically anything. You just have to be good enough to do it. So this is really not a killer that benefits very much from breaking pallets on walls and things like that. It's not entirely useless, but as a 4.4 killer, you're not going to be running people down with an M1. You're going to be hitting people with your power or suffering. So the fact that you can do this a lot better now is still probably not worth running. So I don't think I'm going to be doing that. One of the other changes they made was Prayer Kneeler. This is that basically skill floor lowering add-on where the crosshair kind of gets lodged in the first thing you hit, and then from that position you draw the arrow. So you don't have to worry about doing these flicks or anything like that. It's a very, very simplified form of the killer. So they realize that makes the killer a lot more accessible, and they don't really like that someone that's not nearly as good at the killer as somebody else could get sort of the same reward. So they basically just removed the upside for running that add-on, which is the cast speed modifier on it. And other than that, it's functioning the same way. So it's a very, very minor nerf, but it's still very good for getting people into the killer to learn how to play it. But you also got to take that with a grain of salt, because you're sort of learning to play them in an incorrect way. So it's sort of all or nothing. You either play with this add-on every single game, or you never play with this add-on. You don't want to mix and match, because your muscle memory is going to get completely fucked up. You're just going to end up being worse at the killer overall in both sides. So I don't really think this is an add-on I'm ever going to run, but I'm totally fine with it being an option for people that, don't have the physical ability, like with controller sticks or whatever, to turn that quickly or whatever reason. So I think that's fine. It didn't really need the upside. The downside is, you're not learning to play the killer properly. You're just playing this sort of like somewhat limited version of them, but you'll get more consistent results too. So other than that, there wasn't really anything different from what we haven't talked about, and I don't want to repeat the same things I've already seen or already said. So that's going to be it for me. Thanks for watching. See you next time.